So to reflect that, I thought if we bring back Threefold and speak to British musician, actor, raconteur, all-round wonderful human being, Jamie Bauer, we could get into it a little bit. So when I caught up with him the other day, we spoke about songs that helped shape his musical taste. Something that he would consider to be a career-defining song. And a song that over time has taken on a new meaning. And as we go through those selection of 3 songs, one of the things that he touched on was a specific piece of music that he would listen to help get him into character when he was playing Vecna in Stranger Things. So for the next 25 minutes or thereabouts, this is Threefold, Jamie Campbell Bauer. Enjoy.
One band, 3 songs. It's Threefold on BBC Radio 1.
There's only so many artists that I interview on the show that have a foot so strongly in 2 separate creative camps. I mean, sure, we speak to artists that are also visual artists a lot, but for you, acting and music is 2 fields that you're both equally passionate about, I assume.
Yeah, man. It was the thing I started. I mean, yeah, exactly.
Music first though, right?
Music came first, yeah. I was playing drums in a sort of indie outfit when I was about 16, 17, and this was sort of around the heyday of the London indie scene and the British indie scene kind of popping off. You know, it was the Libertines and the Rakes and the Cazals and Larrick and Love and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, you know, I was very used to kind of just lugging gear across London on various different, you know, forms of transport, one of which I believe ended up being a rickshaw at some point. And then I started making films when I was about 18. I think I got my first gig.
I think the thing is, choosing a career path within those things is a big step, because I think everybody kind of is pulled into it. You can make decisions obviously to how you want your life and career to be, but they're both things that I imagine, as somebody that's a visual artist and somebody that plays music, I know that they're somewhat obsessions. Callings is probably a slightly more pleasant way of putting it.
Yeah, I mean, I always knew growing up that I wanted to do something creative. It was like you say, that calling, you know, it wasn't necessarily like a conscious thought. It was just the thing that I was the most passionate about and the thing that made me feel the best. And music's hilarious in the fact that you know, you used to have a section called Music Ruined My Life. There are times where I still think, this is ruining my life. Like, I hate myself. Nothing I'm doing is good enough. Like, you know, and then there are those moments where it's just, it comes from somewhere else and you just become a vessel for it.
So let's talk about a song that's helped shape your musical taste.
When I was about 15 at school, we were studying American literature, and through that I sort of discovered like people like Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg and all these guys. And at the same time, I remember my folks had this Bob Dylan book. It was one of those like sort of fancy legacy artist music industry compilation books, you know. It's got all the pictures in there and whatever, and with the CDs. And I found this book and I'd never seen this artist before. I was like, oh, I wonder what this is. I put it on and I just remember being like blown away by the tone, the voice. That voice was just mental. Never heard anything like it. That harsh harmonica sound that cuts through so many of those records that at that time, you know, when I got a bit older, when my mates were driving and you'd put it on in the car and you'd have some sort of like, those speaker systems were so tinny that harmonica would just be like, oh my, turn it off. Like, but the lyrics, it was the lyrics that really struck me. This guy had this poetic imagery that I could understand. That's my first track, Bob Dylan, Stuck Inside a Mobile with the Memphis Blues again. One mic on the drums. Can you imagine that? Just like nowadays, I've seen producers and engineers set up 15 mics. You're like, do we need that?
Yeah.
You know, can we not just go the classic way? And and how, I guess, like, how it shaped me is that thing of like, I saw a picture of myself the other day at the premiere of the first film I did, which was a musical film called Sweeney Todd by Tim Burton, and I was still just so like enamored with Dylan. My hair was a bit shorter, but I tried to make it curly. Like, spent hours sat in the mirror, like foam whatever in the hair, pushing it all together. I'm wearing like a bolo tie. It's mad.
Okay, let's talk about a career-defining song. What have you gone for? Because, you know, I think it's a funny one, because whenever I've done these before, I always try and second guess it, because the one, I think from an outside perspective, you can go, oh, well, this is the commercial hit, or this is the song which kind of brought an artist into into more public awareness, or where they found like the sound that they were clearly working towards. But so yeah, I'm curious as to what you've gone for.
When I was getting ready to play Vecna and Henry in One, I'll always have some sort of playlist going. And this is also very personal to you as well, I believe. One of the bands that ended up being the soundtrack to that whole process, and that I will continue to use, is Norma Jean. And I'm not going to give you the specific song that I use, because I will continue to use it. And so sometimes I feel like if I give it away, I release its power. So I'm going to choose another song, which I think, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think was also the background track that you used on the show, which was 1 Million Watts, right?
Yeah, I did used to use that. Yeah, I used to use it as a bed. Yeah,
that's right. So not only has this band now, in my recent, movie career, been so important in being able to zone in, look within myself, drag up whatever it is that I need to drag up. I connect with this art for some reason so deeply. Okay, yeah, it sounds absolutely gnarly. Sonically, it's brilliant, but there's something about the lyrical content, there's something about everything that's going on in there that really I just find powerful. Yeah. So not only does it work for me in a artistic sense, on a sort of emotional acting level, but also, you and the Rock Show have been so supportive of a musical journey that I've been on with various different people. So not just me, but for a lot of friends of mine, for a lot of family of mine as well, that it becomes career defining in a way. So that's the track I've chosen, Norma Jean, 1 Million Watts, man. There you go. Every time it used to come on, boo doo 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 gla doo doo boo doo doo gla gla.
So good,
be
man.
like, it's coming. Here he comes.
It's the Radio 1 Rock Show with Daniel B. Carter.
Right. So then finally, we're going to have a song that over time has taken on a new meaning for you.
This was an interesting question, because you and I briefly earlier spoke about obsession, right? I can become really obsessive with music, and I can become so obsessive that if I find a song, I will play it to death, and then I will avoid it for the next however many years. I think that's the curse, right? We start to get the headache after play 300. You start to go, yeah, no, I think I've got to put this down for a minute now. The song that I've chosen for this is interesting, because there's another journey with this, and it's kind of out there, So I've chosen Breathe by The Prodigy, right? And the reason I've chosen this, it's not because It's not because over time the lyrical content has meant other things to me or it's become different in what it's saying. It's because that band and that, Fat of the Land, that record, has really shaped my life in a quite interesting way when I look back at it. So that record, I think, was made in between 95 and 97. And I think it came out in 97. So I was born in 88. So I was 9 when that record came out. And my mum loved it. She absolutely loved the band. She loved everything about it. So, she would have that on in the car or whatever we had, that would play music at the time. And she loved Keith. And then, of course, the Firestarter video came out. And, if you were anywhere around that time, you just couldn't avoid it. That iconic imagery in that, sewer or wherever he is just mental. So I found that band when I was, before I was 10, before I was even in double digits. And then, of course, you get to 16 and you start to go to festivals, and Prodigy were, on another cycle back then. And so, we'd go to Isle of Wight Festival. I grew up in the south coast of England, so Isle of Wight was one of our nearest festivals, even though you had to take a boat to get there. And, they'd play that, or they'd play, I think they played Wireless at one point. I think they played Wireless with Pendulum at one point as well. When I started the band that I was in, Counterfeit, so when that band started, we had no band, really. I mean, there were 3 of us, and we were all on guitar, nobody was playing the drums, it was just I was just making these tunes at home and sending them out to this producer who I met called Matt Terry, who owns and runs Vader Studios just outside of Stratford upon Avon, and I know a lot of people that we love and that we know track there, and it's sort of one of those hubs now for sort of modern rock music in the British music scene. So I'd send this stuff to Matt, we'd be working on it and talking about it, and he was like, I've got a drummer. And I was like, okay, sick. And it was this guy, Leo Crabtree, and Leo was the live drummer for the Prodigy for many, many years. Well, Counterfeit came about partly because of Leo, because I would send these tracks in. Leo lived just down the road from Matt, so I'd send the stems over, and Leo would track the drums during the week for the demos to see how it would turn out, And it's mad. That's mad to think of. So I guess over time, the Prodigy, if I look back at it, the Prodigy has meant so much to me throughout my whole life. Wild to think about. So yeah, the Prodigy breathes.